Hey guys, how's it going? Laura with Garden Answer. Today I want to go over a few tips on how to have success with Supertunias. Now we have done a couple other videos on planting annuals and having success doing that, but they were a little bit more generalized, so I really wanted to focus a little bit more on the Supertunia specifically. First thing I want to mention about these plants is that they do not have to be deadheaded. They are self-cleaning, which is so amazing. They are a low-maintenance petunia. This is something I learned about 5 to 6 years ago. I planted up all of our big cities' downtown pots. I used 3 varieties of petunia. 2 were the Supertunias, and 1 was a different variety that I will not name. And that one variety caused me so much headache because the Supertunias looked full and gorgeous all the time, didn't have to touch them, and then that one variety I spent so much time picking dead blooms off of just to keep it looking nice. So that was kind of when I just like light bulb moment, and that's the only thing I have used in those pots ever since. So moving on, tip number 1 is that these warm season annuals like to have at least 6 hours of sun per day. If they can have 8 or more hours per day, that's even better. The more sunlight, the happier they're going to be, because these plants soak in the sun, it turns into energy, and the more energy these plants have, the more vigorous they'll grow and the more blooms they'll have. If the spot you're going to plant them in has less than 6 hours per day, I would suggest finding a different location for these plants because they really do thrive with lots and lots of sunlight. Tip number 2 is to water consistently, and this might mean different things for different people. So I live in a really hot, dry climate where we get lots of wind, which means I have to water my Supertunias once a day when it gets really, really hot in the summertime. But you might live in a climate that's a lot more humid where you get rain for days on end, which means you can probably skip watering days. And it will also make a difference where you have them planted. So a Supertunia planted in the ground won't need as much water as a Supertunia planted in a hanging basket, because that hanging basket is only getting the water you give it, as opposed to that Supertunia in the ground. They've got moisture reserves to draw from. The goal is to keep the soil consistently moist but not soggy. You don't want Supertunias to get to the point of wilting, because what happens is the water flow inside the plant gets disrupted, and then it stops the growth cycle and the flowering cycle, and then they'll just sit there stunted until you get them back on that consistent schedule. So if you are really busy, or if you go on vacations a lot, or if you just tend to be forgetful about watering your pots, you might consider putting them on a drip system. Super helpful. I just set all of my parents' containers up on drip systems, and it really does help out when it gets really hot and we're really busy. The third tip is to remember to fertilize, and I know I talk about it all the time, but you guys, this is super important. Do not skip fertilizing. The sun provides all of the energy these plants need, but it's the fertilizer that provides the nutrients to help with really great growth and lots of flowers. So the easiest way to do it is to add in a slow release fertilizer into the soil when you're initially potting up your containers. I've been using this Proven Winner slow release. If you can't find the specific fertilizer, look for one that's labeled for hanging baskets, containers, annuals, or flowering plants. And this type of fertilizer will feed for several weeks. And then after that, you can start in with a water-soluble fertilizer, and I use mine once a week. If you can't find this particular brand, just look for one that contains chelated iron. Super important because it helps prevent the foliage of your plants from yellowing. And the fourth tip is to trim as needed. So about midsummer, it's time to give your plants a little bit of a haircut. So what you want to do is just assess each container, and it's not midsummer yet, so I don't have an example to show you, but if this plant was trailing way down like it will be come midsummer, you just want to bring those long branches back up in line with about the bottom of your hanging basket or pot. This will rejuvenate your plant, it'll make it better branched, and will produce way more flowers. You might be sacrificing a few flowers that are right toward the end, but it will rejuvenate your plant in the end. When you're trimming, you just want to make sure that you're not taking any more than 20% of the plant away. That way you're leaving plenty of foliage and things to absorb energy and produce more growth. And trimming is something you can do again late in the summer and early fall, just to keep your plants nice and tidy, full of flowers, and really healthy. So those are my 4 tips, and you guys, these have become such a staple in my garden. I use them everywhere, in containers, in hanging baskets, out in the landscape. They're a staple in my area and pretty much anywhere else. And I would wager that any place that sells flowers, you could find these at. There are over 41 varieties of them, lots of beautiful colors to pick from. And for those of you who have grown these before, I know you know what I'm talking about when I say how amazing they are. For those of you who haven't tried them before, I would encourage you to try one this year. I mean, just one. Just stick one in a pot and see how it does, and I think you will be amazed at the amount of growth and flowers. So thank you guys so much for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.